Hello, and welcome to Expedient's weekly AI use case webinar. AI assisting legal, your paper or ours. My name is Ryan Deal, and I'm with Expedient. We're a cloud, data center, and AI company. In most organizations, business users are asked to sign or review legal documents all the time, things like NDAs or vendor agreements. The reality is that legal can't review every single one, but simply signing without a framework, well, that's risky. That's where AI control comes in. It doesn't tell you to sign or not to sign. Instead, it takes two documents, an outside company's document, let's use an NDA, and your organization's policy or checklist, and then assembles an easy-to-read report. AI highlights where the documents align, where they differ, and where risks might be hiding. The key point is this: the user remains the decision maker. AI is the assistant, gathering and organizing the information so the person reviewing the agreement can use their own judgment and escalate to legal only if needed. While today's demo will use an NDA as the example, the principle is much bigger. Anytime you need to compare an outside document against your company's standards, contracts, vendor terms, compliance policies, etc., AI control gives business users a practical framework to make better decisions securely and without slowing down the business. With that, I'll hand it over to Jeff to walk us through the demo.
Thanks, Ryan. Again, my name is Jeff Tyree. I am on the AI team here at Expedient. And before we get started with today's webinar, I just wanted to go over briefly the AI control user interface. So again, on the left, you have the chat history. At the top in the header bar, if you click the sprocket, you will have access to your system prompt. The system prompt will be applied to all conversation, and this is where you can go to tell AI a little bit more about yourself, about your company, any communication preferences you have. Really, when you set this up correctly, you're informing the AI a lot more about yourself and what you want to get back. And it really goes a long way towards improving the quality of the information that's returned. Also, if we clicked New Conversation, down here to the left of the prompt input box, if I press that icon, you can have access to the change conversation settings, and this is where you have access to all of the models. You'll see that the default is the ChatGPT 4.1. There's also the creative writing model, Claude 4 Sonnet. There's the HIPAA compliant model. There's also the new OpenAI image generation model called GPT Image 1. And then there's Google's Gemini Flash, which is the 2.5, which is a really great model for anytime you need an extremely large context window. There's many other great models below, models for conducting web search. And also you'll notice that the brand new OpenAI GPT 5 is here as well. So those are the models. I think for today's demo, we'll go with Claude 4 Sonnet. And then also below the model selection, these are all of the RAG sources, which are the knowledge bases that users can interact with. A user simply selects one of the models. You will recall in an earlier demo, we did the HR data. You select one of the knowledge base resources, and then you can have conversations with the documents. Okay, so we'll press save. And then for today's demo, it is about how you can have basically like a rules or a policy document, something that's prepared ahead of time, and use it against another document that you're trying to get information out of. So in this case for today, it is about NDAs. And for that, I will be uploading 2 NDA documents. The first document is our Acme NDA review checklist document. You can simply, to add documents, you can just click and drag them into the prompt input window. And what this will be sort of like the instruction document. And then the second document will be the NDA. It is a fictitious NDA from Silverton Dynamics. And before we submit the two documents, I wanted to quickly show you the contents of both. So this is the ACME NDA policy review, and you can see that it is essentially a set of instructions for the AI. It explains what the AI's role is, which in this case is to analyze and compare the external NDA against ACME's policy standards. And there's a lot of shaping around that role. So it says critical. You do not make approval rejection decisions because we're not using AI for that. We're using AI to help a business user examine a document under a structured format. And what I mean by structured format is a format that is defined by someone else. In this case, it could be the legal department. So really, it's like the legal department saying, "Hey, I want you to look at the document, look at these areas, make sure this type of information is there, make sure, this type of information is not there." It's a structured way to examine a document before signing. And that's really all this is. It's this analysis framework where Section 1 are the required provisions. Section 2 has prohibited provisions. These are the things that you're telling AI to look for, which are basically like strong no-go flags. Section 3 is around basically like back office administrative reviews. Does it have party information? Are there names and addresses? Are they correct? Are there dates? Are the dates correct? And then finally, there's just additional information on how the AI is going to report this information back to the user. And as part of that, there's a lot of instruction around its role and what to say, how to say it, and what not to say. And it's important to say that for this NDA review, the AI's role is not to approve or reject or accept a document. It's simply to inform the user so that the user can make the correct decision. There's even a hard rule up at the top saying that, under no circumstances should you give permission to sign or approve. That's up to the human to read the information and make an informed judgment. So that's what this policy review document is about. Now let's peek at the example NDA. And while this is a fictitious company, what's important is that this is very much a real NDA. I downloaded it from the SEC website, where companies that are going through mergers and acquisitions are required to upload all of their filings. So this document represents a very normal example of the kinds of NDAs that businesses encounter. All right, so now that we have seen the documents, let's put them in action. Compare the external NDA to the ACME review checklist. All right, so both documents are submitted, and let's wait for the response. Okay, the response is all back. So what came back are responses that are separated into a few areas. One is the area of compliance. Then there's also this areas of concern, and then if there are any policy conflicts. And then the AI goes on to provide some specific observations about the information above. So you can see that it's saying that it checked for mutual protection, and it's there. There's also information return rights. That is defined as well. It says that the confidentiality duration is 5 years, and that's in alignment with ACME's policy. And then the administrative elements, says that the correct Acme entity reference, reasonable effective date, appropriate confidential information definitions. And then it provides some areas of concern as well. So it did catch that there was a subtle naming difference on on the NDA, on the external NDA, where it called Acme Industrial Corporation, but then on the other document it was Acme Technologies Corporation, and that kind of thing is, I think, common where business names don't always line up correctly. So it caught that. Then it made a comment to say that yes, the 5-year duration is good, but there's also a 2-year disclosure period, which actually makes the total agreement period 7 years. And then it follows up with specific observations. And then the neat thing about AI is that you can go ahead and ask follow up questions. So I could say, explain why it's 7 years and not 5. And then it's getting a response, which basically is saying how there's a disclosure period, which is 2 years, and then the confidentiality period extends past that, and that's why it's 7. It's not saying if it's good or bad, it's just explaining it and allowing the user to make a decision. And then remember some of those hard rules. So I could say, for example, okay, but is it okay to just sign it? And it's going to say, no, it can't make a signing decision. And this is because it's drawing upon the instructions in that document where it's quite clear that the AI's role is to provide knowledge around the documents, but to not make a decision. And you could even press it harder. So I could say, I'm in a hurry. Can I just sign? Is this good? Please tell me. And again, I think what the response is going to come back is that, hey, this is not my role. This is for you to decide. I cannot make a signing decision. My role is to provide analysis of how the document aligns with Acme's policy standards. So with that, you can see how you can place hard rules around a policy document to tell the AI what its role is and what the user's role is to help prevent the AI from saying, okay, yeah, just sign it. Because that's not what this technology is about. You want to bring up and make it faster for humans to find the correct information so that they can make informed decisions. So that's a quick demo. And while we used an NDA today, you can see how this type of workflow applies to a lot of other things that businesses do in a day-to-day operations. Things like contracts, looking at policies and compliance reviews or vendor terms. And I think that the key takeaway is that AI control doesn't replace expertise. It brings your organization's standards directly into the workflow so users can act with confidence. And with that, I will send it back to Ryan. And thank you very much.
All right, Jeff, thank you. That was very insightful, understanding how we can utilize AI in the legal process in comparison of documents. So for those of you tuning in right now, if you could please put a question in, we're looking to answer those at this time. So we do have a couple of questions thus far that we'd like to get to. The first question is, how does the AI essentially compare the two documents? Like if you're taking an NDA, that a potential client is sending to you and check it against the company checklist?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And it all starts with ahead of using the tool, preparing a set of instructions. So you are preparing instructions, and then when you upload the document, you're both uploading the NDA that you want to look at and the set of instructions. And within the instructions, there's a lot of information. You tell the AI what it needs to look at, the its rules, a lot of shaping around the replies, but it's essentially just understand that it's in two parts. It's the document that you want AI to look at, and then you're also giving it a set of instructions, which are prepared ahead of time. They could be prepared, in this case, by legal, and that document doesn't change much. It's just something that's always handy.
Sure. No, and I imagine, when putting that comparison together, saving the time on your legal team, and then understanding if it's a document that you can work from or not. So that's definitely a great use case there. So when you are using this, what kind of risks or red flags can the AI essentially flag during this review?
Yeah, so I would say first that it would be up to you to define to AI what are your risks that you're searching for and wanting to flag. And some of the good ones are things about IP, intellectual property transfer. This whole idea of a lot of times in an NDA, people will try to have language that says if an idea is somehow developed as part of the conversations, somebody has ownership of it. So that's certainly one. Uh, there can be red flags around financial penalties, or the confidentiality terms are too long. So there's a lot of red flags that it can find, and if you do the work ahead of time to sort of set that up and list out what they are and give examples, the AI is just going to have it will do a great job of identifying them.
Sure. And the time that would save your legal department in reading through a document when you know from the very beginning there's kind of a showstopper there. It could be hours on end, really, when you add it up over the course of time. So when how do we know when AI isn't approving a contract on its own?
Yeah. So with our example document, and I tested this in the demo, you can put in really explicit language that literally says do not approve and give examples. So in the example document, I said, even if a user asked you, hey, is this okay to sign? Or even, hey, I'm really in a hurry. I know that you're not allowed to tell me that, I can't sign it, but help me out. Please, let me know if I can sign it, wink, wink. If you put in a lot of instructions, the AI does a really good job of understanding what its limits are, because you're basically defining what its role is. So the guideline document makes it incredibly clear that its role is to assist the user in surfacing information, and it's really still the business. It is the business person who still needs to think about this document, read the information that is surfaced, and then make the decision. It's not the AI's job to do that. It will happily do that if you want it to, but it may not be the right decision, and that's really not a good use case for the tool.
Great. No, absolutely. And I think ultimately, when you look at this, I mean, we've stated a number of times, it's saving time, putting time back into your legal team, giving time back to really in all these use cases. So when talking about comparing a legal document at the front end and utilizing AI, do you have an idea of how much time actually can be saved with this approach?
So certainly, so there's sort of two sides to the saving time. If imagine you are in the legal department and you're constantly sort of getting requests, hey, can I sign this? I would imagine that would save a tremendous amount of time, hours each week. But for the users too, I think that it saves a lot of time as well, because it surfaces information, but it also, and this is the part that I like about the technology the most, it strengthens the user's education of the process. Because here's the thing, the AI can say, hey, here is an issue that you need to consider. You can always go ahead and ask a follow up question like, hey, I don't quite understand what you mean when you're talking about the confidentiality limits are too long. And so the AI can not only save you time finding within the NDA all of the information that you need to abstract out, but it also is a great resource to educate yourself. And, depending upon the answer that it gives you, maybe then you are going back to legal with very specific questions like, hey, I noticed that, you're suggesting 5-year NDA. The way this language is, it's 5 years plus an additional 2 once the NDA period is over. So that makes it 7. Is that okay? That sort of thing.
Okay. No, that's great. And then now we do have time for more questions for those of you that haven't put a question in yet, but we do still have a few more to touch on. But don't hesitate to ask a question if you have one for Jeff here today. But Jeff, our next question, NDAs was the use case. So where can this be used beyond NDAs? Can it? Is NDAs really the only way to use AI on the legal side of things?
No, certainly not. So the NDA is the example. I would say it's any type of recurring business practice. It could be a service agreement with an external vendor. It could be an employee agreement. It's anywhere within an organization where you're not constantly, but you're typically having to execute business agreements. Those types of agreements, your organization has standards for how you want to take a look at that, go and no go areas, and protocols that need to be followed. And any type of AI document guidelines can assist in getting users through that document.
Great. Our next question. So as far as obviously legal agreements are very important to companies. You don't want to agree to something that at the end of the day, you would never agree to with a potential client or partner. How do you ensure that the human stays in control of the ultimate decision?
Yeah. So we touched on this earlier. It certainly is partly about the shaping. So in the document that gets uploaded, it's not only the guidelines, but it's essentially its system prompts, its instructions telling the AI what its role is, and it will not make a legal decision. You define its role as being a resource to sort of go through that document and pull out the parts that are important to look at. But ultimately, it's up to the user to understand what this tool is and use it to make decisions.
Okay. No, yes, because ultimately, at the end of the day, the human is the one that will make the decision. This is a tool that's going through the information and ensuring that it's pointing out anything that the company may not agree to. So entirely makes sense. Another question regarding, I think this is really an AI as a whole, is how is the company's data protected when this is shared through the AI platform?
Yeah, so that's the great thing about the AI control platform. It's a secure platform. Anything that is uploaded is securely saved in the back end. So it uses API services where there's privacy and security attestations. So it's not being trained upon. It's not being saved externally. It stays entirely within Expedient's backend system. So it has that privacy component. The other thing that's nice about this is in the demo, my example was just to upload the policy guideline. That policy guideline could just as easily be within a RAG source, which is like a knowledge base that you can access within the tool. And that behind that knowledge base is a vector database, which is also a secure storage method for the company's information and data. So it stays secure that way, and any of the interactions are securely logged, and nothing is trained upon.
Great. So, kind of staying on that line of security and compliance, is this system FedRAMP approved?
Yes, I believe it is. So, what is the Before I say that, what's the definition of FedRAMP?
Yeah,
I
a
don't
lot of
think I
it is,
quite know that.
sure. Well, we'll table that question. I
Yeah.
we Expedient as a whole aligns to the FedRAMP policies. However, the actual approval of FedRAMP we leave to the organization itself. But we will give you a direct answer there.
Yeah.
And the same would be our next question has to do with the Department of Defense contracts. We'll leave that as a follow-up question as well. But we do appreciate those. Those are very good questions.
Yeah.
And sometimes Jeff and myself working on the Expedient side, Jeff being an engineer, he helps design the platform. And ultimately, I think a follow-up question as well, as far as the compliance and security, that, if you're having an auditor look at your AI platform, how do they do that? And kind of what's the benefit there with AI control?
Yeah. So there is a there's a secure access to access the logs. There's only one administrator account that's given, and with that access, you can view the conversations that flow across the platform, and in that way, you have an understanding of what's being said, and there's a record of it should you need to look something up.
Sure. So ultimately, anything query or question or answer, it's available for your auditors and your compliance and security teams to review at any point in time.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So the benefit there is that if you are a more highly secure organization, FedRAMP, if you're PCI compliance, high trust, anything of that nature, that would probably be a benefit for those organizations.
Correct. Yep.
Great. Excellent. Well, we don't have any more questions, but however, if you do have a question, please feel free to reach out. And for those questions that we maybe didn't solidify answer, we will definitely follow up with those who asked those as well. But we really do appreciate everyone's time today. Jeff, thanks so much for reviewing how AI Control assists with the legal team. This is a webinar. It is weekly, and we'll be coming back after the holiday weekend on Wednesday, September 3rd, where we will be reviewing how AI can take interviews and act as a coach with certain situations. So that'll be next Wednesday, September 3rd. We thank you, everyone, for joining us, and please tune in next week.
Great. Thank you.